Crash Course with OG Career. Let's watch now.
So we are going to be introducing about the manpower agency. So let's brief you on what a manpower agency is. Please let me know if I'm going too fast for you or if you are able to follow how.
Yes.
Okay, so a manpower agency in sense that is what you are, well, you're going to be starting in Canada. It's like an organization. It helps to connect companies or to find people, to connect employers with qualified job seekers, right? So if they have,
Yeah.
if a company has like a job opening, then instead of searching for the employees themselves, they will ask the manpower agency to help recruit this staff for these job seekers.
Okay.
So basically that is what is a manpower agency. So there are a lot of advantages in using for the client, for the companies. They use manpower agencies for a number of reasons because there are a lot of advantages to using that. Right. So in your case, as you are having a share in this company, you will find that the reason that you will find there are so many clients, so many companies who are interested in using your services, right? For one thing, they play a vital role in the labor market by assisting these businesses in finding the right talent and helping individuals find suitable employment opportunities.
Okay.
Okay, so it's really a very it's a very useful agency for companies, because most companies, they don't have time in the instance if they are short of staff to search
Mm.
for really qualified job seekers. So if they usually turn to a manpower agency, so the manpower agency is actually going to be doing going to be screening, recruiting, and then handing it over to the company for the final interview. So they are undertaking most of the minor tasks and then handing it over to the companies for the hiring processes, right? So let's take a look at the role and a function of a manpower agency, right? So what is the primary role? So what you as a manpower agency, what your agency would be doing is sourcing, right? Finding this type the job the job seekers who are qualified for the client's requirements, right? Sourcing. Then the manpower agencies, they will screen, right? They will screen them, then make sure that they are the right fit, and then select the candidates for the job positions on behalf of employers. Is that clear for you?
Yeah, it's that clear. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Right. So this is basically what a manpower agency, they basically, that's what it is. And we have, like, you can see so many examples of these companies, these agencies. They are in most parts of the world. Like they have big companies, like, large companies, they do partake this, they take use of these type of agencies because of the convenience, time effective, because it's quite effective. It's convenient because it's a lengthy process to hire a qualified person. So if they go through a manpower agency, they are relieved of that particular task, and they save time as well, right? So not only so sometimes temporary and permanent staffing, both. Some companies, like, in the sense, they will look for temporary staffs and also permanent staffing. So manpower agencies will be providing both temporary as well as permanent staffing solutions, depending on the needs of the clients. Depending on the needs of the clients, in the sense, what are these companies, these clients looking for? Maybe sometimes what they mean by short-term staffing is when, for a particular season, when it's really a high season, they will look for people who will be willing to work only for 3 months or 2 months. So a good example would be the Qatar football. I think the World Cup, where they hired people only for 3 months. So that is the temporary staffing, and manpower agencies, they do that as well. They do find job seekers who are willing to work for that time amount of periods, right? And another role is matchmaking. right? Agencies, like certain companies will have certain requirements. So agencies will have to match the skills, the experience, as well as qualification of the job seekers with the requirement of the employers. So most of the time,
Oh,
as you are well aware, employers will have different sort of requirements for their the vacancies that are available. They might seek a different type of skill. They might want, okay, we need a person with 4 to 5 years experience, or a beginner, anybody. So this is something that the manpower agency should be able to do, to match the requirements of the employers with the job seekers, right? So that these are the
yes.
roles. So if you are asked what are the roles of a manpower agency, this would be something that you would have to talk about: the recruitment and placement. A manpower agency provides temporary as well as permanent staffing, as well as a manpower agency has to uh, provide the correct person, or that is matchmaking, match the
Okay.
skills, experiences, and qualification of the job seekers, the requires of the employers. Um, so now that you're familiar with what a manpower agency is and the role and the function, let's take a look at the different types of manpower agencies that operate. So some manpower agencies, they will operate only for general staffing. So they will not be undertaking any other stuff. So they will be for only like the provide a wide range of, so they will be focusing on specialized niches, right? So here you can see here the different types. We have the general staffing agencies. These agencies, they provide a wide range of candidates across various industries and job roles, right? So that means if you are searching for somebody for admins, or for secretarial purposes, so, or even for sales, marketing, all of these, the general staffing agencies will find the proper person for this type of niches. Then you have the specialized agencies. So this is the specialized agencies. Now this is where they will be only finding people who are specialized in a certain industry, a profession, or a certain industry, maybe healthcare, or it could be a construction. So these agencies, they will find people only from this type of industry. So they are called the specialized industries, right? Some agencies, they focus on specific industries, healthcare, it could be IT, or even the job categories, like it could be executive, or it could be administrative. So this is the second type. Then we have the temporary agencies. Now, as you know, temporary agencies means if this is a agency which offers the employees on temporary basis, like these people are willing to work for this type of, like, only maybe 2 months, 3 months contract, right? So they don't work long term. They primarily offer temporary and seasonal workers, right? So this is the agencies which specialize only for those seasonal workers and temporary workers. Or it could be the permanent placement agency. So here we have this other one, where these agencies specialize in finding candidates for permanent positions, for long-term contracts, maybe 4 years at on. And so these are the four different types of agencies you will find, the manpower agencies, right? Let's go through them again. So you have the first one
Yeah.
is the general staffing agency, right? These are agencies providing a role for all of the various industries and job roles. So these are these type of agencies, they're quite large, because they have a wide base, they have a good base of candidates across all of the industries, as well as across a lot of categories of jobs. Then we have the specialized agencies. Now these are quite small, because they cater only to a specific industry or a separate job. Like maybe you could be in the food industry, or IT, or healthcare. So only those, especially these niches, they will find you the person. Then you have the other two, temporary and the permanent. So temporary agencies will find you workers who are specializing only for seasonal contracts, maybe 1 to 2 months, or 6-month contract, like that. They won't work for longer than that. So some companies, they do require people for short-term employment. So if so, they usually search for agencies who will provide candidates like that. And then we have the permanent placement agencies, right? So these agencies, they specialize in finding clients, the candidates for the permanent positions, right? So is that clear for you? Am I going too fast?
Yeah, yes, I'm clear. Yes.
Okay, so that's great. Now let's take a look at the client base. That means who are the people who will be like, who are the companies, which type of companies like search for these make use of manpower agencies. So manpower agencies, they have usually a diverse client base. So small businesses, large corporations, sometimes even government agencies and non-profit organizations, all of these business corporations, they will use the services provided by manpower agencies, right? So the reason is they will use these agencies for short-term staffing needs, long-term hiring, or even, like I mentioned, to access specialized talent. Like we looked at healthcare, IT, so specialized, And another, so what are the benefits for these clients? Why do they use manpower agencies, right? So like we mentioned earlier, one of the biggest benefit, you can actually mention it, it saves time, right? Because the manpower
Yes.
agencies, they take over that, it is a very big task for finding the correct candidate for this particular job role. Means it takes a lot of time, you have to go through a lot of CVs. So manpower agencies, they will undertake all of that. So employers save time in the hiring process, as the agencies will handle the candidate sourcing and the initial screening. As well as they have an access to talent pool. So most of these job seekers, they might register themselves with these manpower agencies. And so these agencies, they have a database of these pre-screened candidates. So they have a large talent pool, so which the companies can choose from. Right. So unlike where they will have to, otherwise they will have to advertise and, make they have to mention in most of the platforms that there is a, or even in newspapers, there is a job vacancy available. So they don't have to do all of this. In this case, in the one of the benefits is they have already have an access to this, a lot of qualified job seekers, and they have this access because of these manpower agencies. And another benefit for employers is the flexibility, right? So flexibility in the sense, where when we this is for temporary staffing. So they when most of the time it's difficult to find people who will work for short term basis. Most people like to work for long term. So in this case, if you have an agency who specializes in finding short term job seekers, this is also a lot of way you can save time. So temporary staffing allows the employers to adjust their workforce based on the fluctuating demand. In the sense, sometimes in most parts of the world, there are seasons. I mean, where you have fluctuating demand for like salespeople, or it could be demand for people who will be marketing. So in that case, they can adjust their workforce based on the seasons and hire people based on that. So this is so flexibility is another advantage provided by manpower agency for the companies. So all of these are really very helpful for these corporations, and that's why most of them actually go through these type of manpower agencies to find suitable employees.
Okay.
Okay, so then let's take a look at why should like what is the benefit for the job seekers. Now we looked at the clients, but what about the people who are actually getting the jobs? So for one thing, they can connect the job seekers to a wide range of employment opportunities. Obviously, because these job seekers, they don't have to be on like, they don't have to be searching for jobs. What happens when a person doesn't have a job? They usually search on newspapers. They will be applying for interviews. So what happens here is, if they are able to register at a manpower agency, then they will be connected to their own clients who actually require their services, right? So manpower agencies can connect job seekers to a wide range of employment opportunities. Another thing that the manpower agencies they do is career support. So they can offer these job seekers career counseling, like how to get, make their own CV, like resume building and interview preparation services. So these are something that the manpower agent they do provide. You know, if they register with them, they will be helping them. Uh, uh like if you're saying career counseling, maybe how to properly, like what type of career should they go for based on their qualifications, or resume building. Sometimes you might need different resumes for different companies, right? So how would you build a proper one that will make you stand out, or how would you answer interview questions? So these are some of the services provided to the job seekers by the employment agencies, right? So this is actually a very useful service, as most of the candidates might not be, they might be first timers who have no experience at all answering questions, and who have no experience in finding jobs. So these, if they go through a manpower agency, now they will be schooled, they will be taught how to, which type of career should they go to based on their qualification, maybe educational based on the experience. So this is all some of the services provided by a manpower agency. Also, again, we can also say flexibility. So sometimes some of the job seekers could be students who will be willing to work part-time, or maybe for only a short period of time. So if they go through agency, they are able to have this flexibility. So they don't have to work for a long term, long a period of time, or sign contracts which make them work for long. So they can go for short-term work itself through a manpower agency. Right. So when we take a look at regulation, before we go ahead to the next topic, like, are you now
Yeah.
familiar now? Are you confident about this particular uh, set topic that we covered, the benefits, the client base?
Okay.
So Jeff, um, were you able to follow through about what we just went?
Yeah. Okay. No problem. You can explain it.
Yes. So, am I going to fast for you? Because you can. Do you have any
I'm
questions?
okay with. No, no, I don't have any questions here.
Right. Okay. So that's basically now because you wanted to know about what a manpower agency does. So this is, I hope now you're more familiar and confident about what they do. So even though I think if you're going through like this actually gives you the confidence to answer the questions, like if you are being asked about what is a manpower agency. Okay, let's take a look at the next on that, the regulation and compliance, right? So sometimes it's not all easy. It's not going to be to have a to be like to have a manpower agency. You will obviously have to go through certain regulations and comply with certain rules, right? So the challenges that a manpower agency will face is you have to ensure quality candidates. So that is a bit of a challenge, because matching candidates to the correct job roles effectively can be a challenge, in the sense sometimes companies will have different people in, different qualifications and different experiences in mind, and you might not have the correct fit for that particular requirement. So you have to make sure that then that might be a bit of a challenge to find the correct person to the correct role. So quality candidates, that means you have to make sure that you attract the correct candidates into your agency. And also managing employee expectations. Temporary workers may have different expectations than the permanent employees. So this is another challenge that you might have to face when you have an employment agency uh, that caters to finding jobs for temporary workers, because they will have different expectations. In the sense, what do you mean by different expectations? Like the um maybe in terms of salary or in terms of work hours, then permanent employees, they might have different expectations, and these are something that you might have to coordinate with the company itself to fit the correct roles. And industry trends. So the challenges now that we've gone through the challenges that an employment agency will face, let's take a look at the industry trends. All right. Nowadays, you might notice virtual industry is also evolving. You can see that outsourcing virtual employments is also something an employment agency now can do. Not only physical work, even remote work is also quite trending. So the staffing industry here is evolving with the use of technology and online platforms to streamline the recruitment process. So in the sense, what you can understand here is, you can, if it's companies are open to hiring people from different countries and who will be working remotely. So this means they don't have to be physically present in to maybe conduct interviews or to even have meetings, right? It's evolving with the use of technology. So even an employment agency has to evolve with that. They cannot stick to the old the olden trends and because employment agencies also have to keep up with technology. So that is something that is expected from the companies nowadays to keep up with the trends, which means that the trends have to be met in the sense because technology is evolving at such a fast pace that online platforms can be used to streamline the recruitment process. Another thing
Okay.
is diversity and inclusion have become essential in staffing, with agencies working to provide more equitable opportunities. When we say diversity and inclusion, now this is something that is nowadays trending, to have a diverse staff, not only just one. Maybe it could be in terms of race, religion, maybe it could be in terms if to have diversity and inclusion. Also, so in this way, it's some companies, they are open to that. They're open to that, and they might even require a person maybe from the black community, so or from the white. So they have this so that there is a diverse workforce working within the company. So this is something that an employment agency also has to cater to have a diverse workforce, like a client base. So diversity and inclusion have become essential in staffing, with agencies now working to provide more equitable opportunities. So that is something that is actually has evolved with time, and so nowadays people are working towards more inclusion. When I say inclusion, you have to understand it means like to include all ethnicities, maybe all races, all religions. So diversity and inclusion in workforces, that's quite important as well, right? Nowadays, manpower agencies are valuable partners for both employers and the job seekers. So that is correct, because manpower agency to you, where if employer as well as job seekers go through manpower agencies, they have a lot of benefits for that. So there is not much negativity between, I mean, disadvantages of going through a manpower agency. You can only see the positive side of it. They help bridge the gap between the labor supply and demand, making it easier for businesses to find the right talent for the individuals to access job opportunities that match their skills and preferences. So now let's take a look at what is how a manpower staffing agency in Canada operates. It's quite similar to other countries, but you have to understand, in Canada, you have to adhere to the Canadian labor laws, the regulations, and business practices. Right, so
I
it's
have mentioned that the Canadian operator in the laws, labor
yes.
laws,
Yeah,
specifically.
so in Canada, there are certain labor laws that you have to adhere to, as well as the regulations there, and also the business practices. Let's take a look at it. So if you're starting a manpower agency in Canada, these are some of the things that you might need to know. Nowadays
Okay.
in Canada, what happens is there is an increased demand for temporary staffing. Like
Okay.
most Canadian businesses, particularly in sectors like hospitality, healthcare, retail, they require this temporary staffing to meet the fluctuating demand. When I say fluctuating demand, it means there are certain, now as you know, Canada is a country with very for it's a 9 months bitter winter as well as 3 months normal weather, which means there will be fluctuating demand for the seasons itself, seasonal demand. So Canadian businesses, they require temporary staffing for this type of fluctuating seasons and seasonal demands, especially during peak seasons or like when they are having economic disruptions like the COVID-19 pandemic. So most of there is an increased demand now for temporary staffing. Uh, so these are the sectors where they require the temporary staffing: hospitality, healthcare, retail. And also there is an increased demand for the specialization and the niche staffing. So this is where they have there is an increased demand for people who are specialized in IT, healthcare, engineering. So all of these are gaining popularity in Canada presently. So these specialized agencies, they can, now if you're having a specialized agency which caters to these particular job industries like IT, healthcare, engineering, then they actually are gaining in popularity. So they're quite popular. These specialized agencies, they do provide higher quality talent to clients, right? So that means what you have to understand is one thing that is increasing in demand is for temporary staffing. Another increased demand in Canada right now is for the specialized staffs like for IT, for healthcare, for engineering, right? So they need staff for that. So that means if you have an agency that is specialized catering only to these job roles, you might have a higher demand. They're gaining in popularity.
Okay.
And also, like I mentioned earlier, remote and gig work opportunities. Now that is also increasing. Remote means working from home. So the rise of remote work as well as a gig economy has created opportunities for staffing agencies. Now you can connect freelancers, contract workers with businesses looking for flexible talent. That means people who are willing to work
So
from
they are
home.
work with home, right? Work from home like that.
Yes, they are. That's right. So working from home. So these are all increasing in demand. That is, they don't have to be physically present. Working from home, or freelancers who will be working only for a gig, that is that without no not contract basis, but gig work, like only for a particular project. So these type of job opportunities are also rising in popularity in Canada right now. So we know that it is so the three types are um, short-term workers, then we have the specialized niches as well as the remote and gig workers. So these are all
Okay.
rising in trends right now in Canada. Also, let's remember, Canadians, like most of the West, they look for diversity and inclusion. So there is a as you must be very well aware, not like the Asian countries in Western areas, they stress on the importance of diversity and inclusion. So okay, now my meeting will end in 10 minutes, right? So if it does end, you can rejoin from the same link, right? Okay. So when we talk about diversity and inclusion, companies in Canada are increasingly looking for diversity and inclusion in their workforce. Staffing agencies that focus on providing diverse talent are in demand. So that means more, covering workers from all ethnicities, races, religions, not only catering only to one particular this. So that means both includes, that is something we have to there. So staffing agencies that provide this type of diverse labor force, they are in demand in Canada. Like if you have your like talent base has a lot of candidates, job seekers from different um, ethnicities, from different races, from different religions, this is something that they do give importance to. Another thing in Canada is skills training and upskilling. some staffing agencies are providing skills training and development programs to candidates to improve their employability and meet the evolving needs of Canadian businesses. Right. So that is something you can also, the agencies in Canada are right now doing. They are giving training, skills training. It could be soft skills and upskilling them. So obviously, most of the time, it's very important for them to know most if technology has evolved to such an extent that if you are only like theoretically qualified, it is not enough. So most of the staffing agencies are also providing these skills training and development programs so that these candidates, these job seekers, meet the evolving needs of these Canadian businesses. So because Canadian businesses are looking for people who are skilled in they're well-rounded, in most of the skills, like also dealing with people. It could be HR, it could be management, project management, so soft skills, right? So who have a lot of the training. So these agencies are actually giving training and upskilling them so that they will be able to meet the requirements that these Canadian businesses are asking for. Tech driven solutions, another thing. Automation, obviously, as you must be well aware, AI automation tools are being used nowadays, streamline the recruiting processes. So this is something that you can also do, from initial candidate screening to matching candidates with job requirements. We can obviously use automation and AI tools. Okay, now here's another thing, a very important thing, compliance and regulations. Like I mentioned, in Canada, there are certain rules and regulations that you have to adhere to. So the labor laws and the regulations, like employment standards and the compliance with immigration requirements, like for temporary foreign workers, remains a key focus for the industry. So if you have to make sure that your job seekers, they have the rights to work for temporary foreign workers, and also that they meet the employment standards. So these are all something that you have to make sure that you adhere to, because they are quite strict on these, adhering to the labor laws as well as the regulations. So here's another one, increased use of online platforms. So staffing agencies, most of the time, you might notice they are relying on online platforms and applicant tracking systems to manage your operations efficiently, reach a broader audience. So in this case, you might notice online platforms like LinkedIn, um, Facebook, to find their staffing to do So this is all because so that they relieve the companies itself from searching for these job seekers. So you can also use online platforms. That's quite popular nowadays. Okay, here's one thing we have to think about is the government initiatives and support. So there are government programs and initiatives which encourage workforce development and job placement. So which have provided opportunities for staffing agencies to collaborate and access additional resources. So governments are very helpful there, and there are government programs and initiatives that encourage the workforce to be there. So this also can be used by staffing agencies, because there are government programs and initiatives. So that the workforce can develop and they have good opportunities. So this can be used by staffing agencies as well. Right, let's take a look at how can we understand the Canadian business culture and regulation. Now, this is something quite which is more than a manpower agency. This is something you need to know, the business culture in Canada. Right, let's take a look at that. First of all, they do value punctuality. So Canadians
Okay.
value punctuality. You need to be on time. Arriving on time for meetings and appointment is considered respectful. So this is something that gives a good first impression, punctuality, because Canadians, as a rule, they value punctuality. You need to be, instead of a few minutes late is not going to be considered but being on time, it means that you are respecting the other people's time as well. So punctuality is
Okay.
something that needs to be, actually we need to do that, because it gives a good first impression. And the second, politeness. As you know, Canadians are very well known for their politeness and courteousness, which means please, using please and thank you liberally in business interactions, right? So something that you have to adopt. So the words please and thank you, and not only that, asking for permission before doing anything. So because Canadians are very well known for their politeness and their friendliness, so this is something that we as Asians we also have to adopt. uh, One is punctuality, second is politeness. Professional attire, so what you wear. Business attire in Canada is generally conservative, so dressing formally, that means dressing formally for meetings and even interviews is common. So this is, it might vary by industry, but as a rule, most of the time, people do dress quite formally for meetings as well as interviews. Again, it's very important for the first impression. So business attire is very conservative. They are not, I don't think it's encouraged to wear trendy outing clothes. Like, you can't show up for an interview with wearing jeans and a t-shirt. That will not be acceptable. So professional attire is something that is considered common and approved of in Canada.
Okay.
Another thing is business hierarchy. So Canadian workplaces tend to be less hierarchical compared to other countries. In the sense, they don't have, okay, this is a manager, say he's higher than us. That is something that's not actually present in their workplaces. So open communication and collaborations are encouraged. So they don't have this they are a senior level, junior level. No, so they are quite open, and they expect collaboration, so that to ensure a better I think ensure better relationships between employees. So that is not actually in most other countries. There is not much of a hierarchy there. So that is one thing. And then the work-life balance. So Canadians again value work-life balance. So they prioritize their times with family as well as personal interest. So you have to remember, you have to respect that balance. In the sense, if they say 9 to 5, a 9 to 5 jobs means a 9 to 5. Most of the time, they need that time with their family. So they set aside their time for family and set aside time for work, so they have a good work-life balance. So that is something which, as an employer, this has to also be respected. So if you are, as a manpower agency, if you are recruiting people, this is something that also has to be made mentioned of. Also take a note of, like they do value the work-life balance. Cultural diversity. And now, like I mentioned, diversity and inclusion. This is the third time this is coming across. Canada is a very diverse country with people from various cultural backgrounds. So embracing this diversity, practicing inclusivity is important in business. So that is something that we need to focus on, cultural diversity. Okay, so another one is business etiquette. Let's remember, handshakes are the standard form of greeting, and you also have to maintain eye contact and offer like a firm handshake, not something that you thought you can't look away. So this is as well a good first impression. Punctuality, dressing properly,